Hey folks, Marcus here from the Ashland Fly Shop. We're out here on the upper Rogue looking for some early summer steelhead, and we wanted to stop fishing for a little bit and talk a little bit about water temps. We're all out here on the west. We're experiencing a really warm, dry year, and when that happens, our water in our rivers tends to heat up a little bit quicker than normal. So we want to talk about what temperature ranges are good to fish in, how the fish behavior changes in different temperatures, what hoot owl restrictions are, and how to find that balance of being able to get outside, do some fishing, but also do it in an ethical way where we're not harming the fish. So the first thing to talk about is water temps. I just checked the temperature for the area that we're at today, and it's right about 57 degrees at the moment, which for steelhead purposes is a really nice temperature. You know, this time of year, summer steelhead fishing, we're often throwing lighter lines, and we find that temperatures in the 50s and low 60s are really conducive to that dry line fishing that we really like with traditional flies or dry flies. Those fish are really comfortable in those water temps. They're happy to move towards flies, and that's just a situation that we really like this time of year. But as you look at this piece of water, we're out here in the morning time. It's 57 right now. As we get into the afternoon, it's going to get into the low to mid 60s. And if you go 8-10 miles down here or another dozen miles downstream from where we're at right now, you start getting into that 65 and up territory. And that's the temperatures where we start to worry about how those water temperatures affect the fish and whether or not we can fish in them. So from 65 to 70 degrees is where any pressure that we put on the fish, angling wise, is going to start to have an impact on them. When we're fighting the fish, bringing them to the bank, especially if you're overhandling the fish, lifting them out of the water, stuff like that, when you get to about 67, 68 degrees, that's when it starts to take a huge toll on any of these salmonoids. So think trout all the way through the Rocky Mountain West and out here, steelhead on our rivers, which we care so much about, and then Chinook as well. So those are three really important groups of fish, and we just want to find that line where we can still fish, have our recreation, but not stress out the fish. So a couple things to think about are go out early in the day and call it quits in the afternoon. You know, we're out here and we're probably going to call it quits at about noon today because it's been pretty hot in our region and the water's heating up quite a bit. So one way you can think about these fish and the stress that they go through is like running a race. Basically, their journey from the ocean is one big marathon. And when they do it in temperatures that they're used to and they have the flow to swim kind of their normal passage that they're used to, then they're a little bit more comfortable. And angling for them in those conditions, you know, there's not much problem with it as long as you're releasing the wild ones, handling them well, and landing them in a timely fashion. But once the temperatures start to warm up and the river channel shrinks because it's a drought year, which we're having out here, they're starting to run that same marathon, but they're doing it in a lot higher temperatures. So if you think about an athlete running in track and field and running the race, you know, at 70 degrees compared to running it at 115 degrees, it's pretty similar to what the fish are going through right now. They're just having to run a race with a lot more stress on their bodies. So when we are out fishing, we want to do so in a way where we're not inflicting too much harm on the fish in the process. We don't want to overstress them. So get out there early, fish when the temperatures are at least 65 degrees or less. If you can fish in that upper 50s, low 60s window, that's even better. And start to call it when it gets into the mid 60s and definitely by the high 60s. Just not even cast a line out there. On July 1st in Oregon, we had some hoot owl restrictions go into place throughout the state, and they happened on the lower Rogue River, below where we're at, below Grants Pass, through the canyon stretch, the lower Deschutes, the North Umpqua River, all got hoot owl restrictions in place. And basically, Hoot owl typically is a cutoff where you can fish from, you know, very dim light in the morning all the way until 2 in the afternoon. And that 2 o'clock is typically a pretty consistent cutoff for hoot owl restrictions throughout the West. And the reason they do that is because you're just getting into the heat of the day, and those warmer water temperatures will follow that heat of the day. So the water is going to be the warmest, you know, 3 o'clock through 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And it'll start to cool as the sun goes down, but it takes a lot longer to cool in the afternoon than it does to warm up in the morning. So it's important if you're on a river, even if it doesn't have a hoot owl restriction, but the piece of water that you're fishing is getting above 65 degrees in the afternoon, then it really is a good idea to try and get out early, fish in those low light hours, get a couple runs in when the sun is low in the sky, and then just call it early. And I think it's important to understand, you know, why the hoot owl restrictions are in place. The Department of Fish and Wildlife in our state and throughout the West, they put these regulations in place to help the fish and to help the resource. And as anglers, I think we all need to participate in that process of not only having our recreation, but doing so in a way where we're not harming the fish. And just calling it early is a really good thing to do, because as much as we all like to get out there and get after it, we just need to do so in a way where we're not having a big impact on the river. An important tool to keep checking water temperatures while you're on the river is just a little stream side thermometer. Fish Pond makes a good one that we sell, but there's all sorts of ones out there on the market. Anything that's waterproof, you can dip it in the water and just check the temperatures. Just while I was fishing the other run, I pulled out my phone and checked the latest graph through the USGS, and you can really check temperatures really consistently. And that, knowing where the temperatures are at in your given stretch of river, it's not only going to make you a better fisherman, more able to predict fishing behavior, but it's going to help you draw that line of when it's too warm to fish and when you need to call it. If the trends keep going where we have warmer and drier years, then hoot owl restrictions, warm, low rivers throughout the West Coast are going to be something that we'll deal with year after year. And it's good to get in the mindset of getting out early. Not only is it better for the fish, but it's so much more comfortable out here in the morning time for us too. You know, when it's 60 to 70 degrees compared to 100 degrees, it's just a lot more enjoyable time to fish. So that's what we do here at the shop, and we hope you do too. Thank you.